And so I wanted to talk a little bit today about why some INTPs perceive themselves as lazy. And first of all, lazy is a judgmental word. So that's something we need to notice right off the jump, is that if we're calling ourselves lazy, there's usually some sort of judgment in there, some sort of should, some sort of expectation of who we're supposed to be. And that's going to be relative to your culture. So I'm in the US, I'm in upstate New York, and I grew up in Philadelphia, spent some time in San Diego, and basically American culture is a very go, 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 very active, busy, productive culture. And so if you are a type like the INTP that is usually doing a lot of thinking internally, a lot of planning, a lot of plotting internally, or preferring to spend much of your time working on philosophies and working on your sense of self through your thinking, refining your thinking, then that's not a process that is outwardly measurable. It's not easy to see how much work actually goes into being an INTP, and it's easy to be perceived as lazy in the outside world. And then also perceive ourselves as lazy as a result of that feedback or a lack of feedback, and can create this loop of staying out of or away from feedback if the only feedback we ever get is something like you were lazy or you're not doing things the way that we expect you to, right? So that can be already a very pervasive narrative that comes into the INTP experience that, you're lazy because of X, Y, and Z, because of external expectations. There's also internal stuff related to the type of INTP that you are, where that is your preference. Because first of all, having INTP preferences is just that. It is a preference. It's the way that we think or make decisions. It's not who you are. It's not your identity, but it does have a lot to do with how you show up to the world, the ways in which you prefer to strategize or to make friends or not make friends or specialized topics and things like that, the way that you navigate yourself, the way you navigate reality. And so with all of that, there are various subtypes. Dr. Dario Nardi talks about subtypes related to Dr. Helen Fisher's work related to different hormones. So testosterone is typically linked to the dominant subtype. Estrogen that produces oxytocin is related to the harmonizing subtype. The creative subtype is linked to dopamine, and then the normalizing subtype is linked to serotonin. So I'm going to kind of go through all four of these, I think, and describe how they could be perceived as lazy. Now, the dominant may perceive themselves as lazy because they have a hard time with rest. And so any moment that they actually need to take a rest or feel a sense of rest, they may have a hard time relaxing. Or if there's a trauma or pathology going on in there may be a difficulty with allowing yourself some time or ability to get some rest. So that may lean more into the judgment side of lazy, like I was saying at the outset of this. So the dominant usually is testosterone driven. They're more assertive. They have no problems like working with CEOs or working with people in power of some kind, and very assertive, have a lot of ideas, a lot of creative ideas, and a lot of analytic ideas, And so when it comes to not having the energy to execute, maybe hitting the walls or limits of extroverted feeling, the limits of how you connect with people, that may then lead to the perception of being lazy, and that can be a total struggle for that subtype. For the normalizing subtype, normalizing of any subtype is usually in a support role. So you think of, if you think of these four subtypes as being a part of a theater show, the dominant is usually doing the organizing the whole thing. They're getting the money, they're getting the audience members, they maybe own the building or rent or lease the building, and maybe have the grand overall idea and are actually making the thing happen. The normalizing subtype is like the support mechanisms. They're the ushers, they're the makeup artists, there are the script writers, the probably members of the audience, trying to think of other professions, like the fashion designer, the costume designer. That's what I was getting stuck on. And lighting, rigging, video, audio, stuff like that, where they're part of the structure. And so the normalizing subtype typically does a 9 to 5 job, and they are in a situation in which they're kind of, the focus is on serotonin. So the energy is usually pretty chill, and it is about sort of being a part of something bigger than yourself, right? So in that sense, the serotonin-based INTP may perceive themselves as lazy if at the end of the day all they want to do is rest, or if they're going through their day and they're generally low energy. Maybe they see a different kind of INTP or a different kind of person that is up in their energy. But this type is usually more focused when it comes to analytic stuff. So they're a little bit more, a little more the book nerd INTP, and may perceive themselves as lazy when they allow themselves to imagine, when they allow themselves to play. They may not be used to doing that. They may not used to being creative and expressive for the sake of it. So when they do that sort of thing, they may perceive themselves as lazy because they're not being productive. Which takes us to the creative subtype, which is dopamine focused, which is risk taking. So they may have the opposite problem. They may be very comfortable with a lot of ideas and a lot of expressions and playing with all sorts of different ideas, but they may have a challenge with executing those ideas or making them mean something, maybe putting them into like a bigger project or a bigger purpose. And they may struggle a little bit with the analytic side of things, with focusing on the numbers and details and the practicalities, much like the serotonin-focused normalizing might. So the dopamine chaser is looking for, the Hail Mary pass and wanting it to land, and they just want the excitement, right? And with extroverted intuition in particular for INTPs, it's not always the most practical function. It's very much not practical. It's playing with ideas. It's throwing stuff out there, spaghetti at the wall. So if you're not a part of a job that is, providing entertainment or is getting paid for all of these ideas, brainstorming, coaching, whatever, you could feel lazy by not being able to focus. So you could feel like that judgment of laziness is primarily on the idea that you can't focus. You can't pick something. You can't stick to a job. You have a hard time concentrating in one general direction, and particularly judging yourself for not being reliable in those areas. And then the harmonizing subtype can feel diffuse in both areas, diffuse in the introverted thinking and and diffuse in the intuition. And so they're much more receptive and much more laid back. And so they might not necessarily feel lazy because they're just kind of in that, it's just kind of the way of being. But every once in a while, the messages from the outside world that you should be more active, especially when it comes to something like promoting yourself. I'm starting to lose my voice. Should have brought water with me. When feeling this sense of needing to promote myself, to make a living, to if you're a coach or a therapist, which these harmonizing subtypes tend to be, you may feel frustrated or lazy when it comes to putting that effort into social media or branding or marketing, or I gotta make another YouTube video. I gotta talk about myself. I gotta talk about these topics. I gotta, It's just like the showing up part can be off-putting and make you feel like you're being lazy. And, so while a lot of INTPs can be very dismissive of the lazy idea in general, I think there are plenty of INTPs that can feel hyper-criticized about whether or not they show up to the world, how they show up, speaking up, being yourselves. And I think ultimately it helps to know two things. One, that you are valued as a person. You have interesting things to talk about, and you can loosen up the grip on the introverted thinking a little bit and just make small talk and banter, and you can practice that and you can get better at that. And the other aspect, I forgot. Whenever I say there's two things, I always forget the second thing. I'm pretty sure I've said that in other videos too. But loosening the reins on that judgment, I think, is the number one thing. And for me, it's better managing my energy so that I can show up. So I have an event with Molly tonight where she is showing off some of her work. She hasn't done a solo show in a while for some of her paintings. And it's at a bar that's opening up. It's called Alt Bar. It's a non-alcoholic bar here in Rochester, New York, and it's very exciting to go check that out. So I'm going to film. That's why I'm bringing my camera and I'm testing the camera setup because I haven't done it in a while. I've been kind of in my own world of working through what I call this special complex or this narcissism victim dichotomy that I've been talking about on dopamine a lot. And getting out of my own head and letting some things go. And I think for me, I can feel a lot of compounding judgment for myself. If you're dealing with a trauma or a pathology that is genuine, frankly, that you grew up with some challenges, or, maybe you're struggling against the overwhelm and the weight of how much you have to perform, again, related to the culture or your own expectations. When, inevitably there will be a comment about capitalism makes it hard and stuff like that. And I think there is a difference between reasons and excuses. Those reasons are valid. It really is really hard out here. But when that becomes an excuse to not try, that's a different story altogether. And I think in today's world, it just requires a lot more discernment to put our energy in the places that require it. So if you're a dominant INTP, it's connecting with other business owners. It's finding opportunities. It's trying different ideas. But then really getting acquainted with the idea of rest. With the creative subtype, it is really about allowing yourself to get into the nitty-gritty details, commit yourself to something, and, be a little more discerning about the things that you try and the outcomes and expectations that you're hoping for. And be more collaborative, because there are just more people who are beyond just other creative types, but other people who are the business owners, someone that maybe you can partner with to bring your creativity to an existing project. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming to start and want to build the entire project yourself. That could be discouraging. And being discouraged can make you feel like you're being lazy, right? And I think it's valid if you're overwhelmed to be discouraged. And by valid, I don't mean enabling. It is a valid thing to experience that. And make better decisions is kind of what I'm saying. Make a more discerning effort to find the right people to surround yourself with, to find the right opportunities and take the time to do it. That's kind of what I'm working on right now. Is I'm overwhelmed because I'm just taking on too much. And I'm doing a lot of projects that have no return to them, so putting my effort in a more concentrated way, making a video like this, that is helping INTPs and frankly is promoting coaching with me, because I fit the more creative and maybe harmonizing at times type. We really do enjoy coaching, but fewer and far between, and it depends on who I'm working with. I really love working with INTPs, so that's why I'm continuing this channel. And I took off all the videos that have nothing to do with INTPs, and this is specifically an INTP channel now. If you're the normalizing subtype, I don't know that I have as much advice for you. I don't feel as attuned to that subtype, but I do know that letting yourself play is going to be very important. That means when you're working your 9-to-5 job, that you have something that's not work related to do in the evenings. That's fun. It could be a trivia night. It could be going to an improv show, something that allows for your intuition to wake up, something that's novel and interesting. You can go play a sport that's interesting and unique. Just something that gets you into your loosening up creative bones, not just sitting at home watching movies and stuff, sure. But something that really allows for your mind to loosen up. The release muscles are important. And I think when we have judgment about our release muscles, that's when we really feel like we can be lazy. And I think for the harmonizing subtype, it's actually not about the release muscles, because you're probably pretty good at those already. But it is about finding the avenues in which you need to step up. Similar to the creative subtype, it's about discernment. I think with all of the types, it's discernment to some degree. But I think is discernment for how you show up. So don't worry about all the things you need to do to promote yourself. It's getting easier than ever to use like AI to build a website, or these no code websites, or even just putting together a link tree or a Calendly or something like that. You don't have to have this picture perfect polished presentation. That was a lot of P's. But pick a platform, more P's, that you can promote yourself on. You can share who you are. And I think in essence, something that allows you to really show up with your extroverted feelings. So YouTube is a really great source for that, because it really allows you to dig in. You could pick a topic like this and you could dig in, and you can show the depth of your knowledge and your expertise, especially if you have been working with clients. Maybe you can do a sample of working with a client, or pulling stories from working with clients to create that sense of trust. And ultimately what you're trying to do is to build credit, build credit by showing up consistently, which I hadn't been doing for a while. So now I'm back. It's nice to be here. It's good to see you. And, pick something, don't focus. Don't be like, I need to do Threads and X and Instagram and Facebook, and I have to have all these pages and I got to do all these things. And it's like, thinking about all that is super overwhelming. Just pick a thing, pick a topic, pretend you're talking to a person, and just give the advice you want to give the value you want to give, and show up consistently. Post a video every 3 days or something like that. I mean, that's generally the good idea algorithm. Post a video every 3 days. You can do talking head videos. Don't get in your head about, overthinking the editing or the production. You don't need fancy edits or cuts or branding or any of that stuff. Just start. Just hit, it's really cliche. Hit the record button and just start talking. I have a plan for what you're going to say, but build a presence in one space. And I think for you as a harmonizing INTP, that may help you feel like a little less lazy, if that's a judgment that you experience. So I think that's what I wanted to cover today. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this idea of laziness. And get specific. Don't just say like, yeah, of course, I'm an INTP. I'm a lazy person. Like, I'm supposed to be. That's just what it is. That's my type. I want to know about you and your experience. INTP is a preference. It's the style of thinking and decision making and learning that we take on. But it's not you. So I want to get to know you as a person. What is your relationship to laziness? Is it related to culture? Is it something related to your parents? You don't have to be super open in the comments, but what's unique to you? And which subtype do you feel like you resonate with? Or if you want some more deep dive into that, I can certainly do that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you follow the link down below to the intpproblem.substack.com, you can find a link to do some coaching with me. We can either do a personality profiling session to confirm you're an INTP, or just kind of go through the motions of that. And I also offer one-on-one coaching sessions to touch on INTP specific content, especially if you have the personality type knowledge. We can dive into some specific things that you already have some awareness of, and work with someone who knows this content and has been doing it for years. I've been working with Personality Hacker, making videos. I've got a ton of videos on the channel. So browse through that first, see if there's anything that can answer your questions in there. But working directly, my style is more of like a challenger. I like to ask questions. And if I see something where it's like, can we poke a little bit? Let's, we kind of push and see if we can get some clarity to support, the direction to go forward. So I think that's it. My name's Christian Rivera, aka C.Note. I'm going to work on saying that up front again. And this has been the INTP problem. Let me know again, comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.